I used to believe that life was about chasing after the next big thing. A better job, a nicer car, a bigger house. I thought happiness was something you earned only after climbing enough ladders and checking enough boxes. That was how I lived for most of my adult years, running, grasping, chasing. I never really paused long enough to breathe, let alone to ask myself what all the running was for. If you had met me 5 years ago, you would have seen a man who looked successful on the outside but was hollow within. And if I'm being honest, I would have kept running forever if it wasn't for one night that completely changed how I saw myself and what it means to live. It started in the middle of a storm. I was driving home late after closing a deal that I thought would finally prove my worth to the people who never believed in me. My phone was buzzing with messages of congratulations, and yet I felt nothing. Just an empty silence in my chest that no amount of noise could cover. Rain hammered against the windshield so hard I could barely see the road, and before I knew it, I had missed my exit. I kept driving, trying to find a place to turn around, until I spotted a dimly lit roadside cafe. For reasons I still can't explain, I pulled over. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe fate. All I know is that if I hadn't stepped into that cafe, I would not be the person I am today. The place was nearly empty, except for a man sitting alone at a booth in the corner. His hair was silver, his coat worn, and his eyes, when they lifted to meet mine, had the kind of weight you only see in someone who has lived through decades of storms. I sat a few tables away, but he gestured for me to join him. I don't know why I did. I just felt something in the way he looked at me, as though he had been waiting. "You look tired," he said simply, his voice low but steady. I gave a small laugh, more of a scoff. "Long day." "No." He shook his head slowly. "Long life." That caught me off guard. How could he know? I shifted uncomfortably in the booth, staring down at my hands. He didn't press me, just sipped his coffee like he had all the time in the world. After a moment, he leaned in slightly and said, "Let me tell you a story." What followed was not just a story. It was a mirror held up to my soul. He told me about his younger years, when he too chased success and recognition. He built businesses, lost them, built them again. He spent his best years working for tomorrow while neglecting the people who loved him today. His wife left. His children stopped calling. He gained everything he thought he wanted, but lost the very things that could never be replaced. He looked me in the eye and said, "I was you once, and if you don't stop running, you will be me." I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but the truth hit me so hard I couldn't speak. He was right. Every promotion, every deal, every late night away from the people who mattered, I was trading pieces of my soul for trophies that would never hug me back, never sit with me in silence, never say, "I love you." Then, he said something I will never forget. The most dangerous lie we tell ourselves is, "I'll make time later." Later is a thief, son. It steals your days, your chances, your life, and you don't even see it until you wake up alone. I sat there frozen, the weight of his words pressing down harder than the storm outside. And then, just as suddenly as he had spoken, he stood. He left a few bills on the table for his coffee and looked at me one last time. "Choose now," he said, "or regret forever." Then he walked out into the rain, disappearing into the night as if he had never been there at all. I sat in that booth for hours, turning his words over in my mind. Something inside me cracked open, and for the first time, I let myself feel the emptiness I had been running from. That night, I drove home differently. I didn't think about work. I thought about my father, whom I hadn't called in months. I thought about my sister, who had invited me to her wedding, but I skipped for a business meeting. I thought about the people I had pushed aside in pursuit of something that didn't even make me happy. The next morning, I made a choice. I took the day off work, something I hadn't done in years, and drove to see my father. When he opened the door, surprise flickered in his eyes, followed by tears he tried to hide. We sat together for hours, talking, laughing, remembering. That one conversation healed years of distance. Later that week, I reached out to my sister, apologized, and promised to be present from now on. It wasn't easy. Old habits die hard, and there were moments when the hunger for success tugged at me. But I remembered the old man's eyes, and the way his voice carried regret like a shadow that would never leave him. I didn't want that to be my story. Slowly, I rebuilt my life around what truly mattered. Dinners with family, late-night walks with friends, moments of silence to breathe and actually feel alive. Work was still part of my life, but it was no longer my whole life. And for the first time, I felt something I had never felt before: peace. Years later, I went back to that cafe, hoping to find him again. The waitress told me she had no idea who I was talking about. She said the cafe had been nearly empty for months, and no man like the one I described had ever been a regular. It was as if he had appeared only for me, at the exact moment I needed him most. I don't know if he was real or if he was something more. An angel, a ghost, a vision, it doesn't matter. What matters is that his words saved me from myself. They taught me that the true measure of life isn't in what you earn, but in who you love and how you spend your days. And now, whenever I feel that old hunger creeping back, I remind myself of the storm, the cafe, and the man who said, "Choose now, because life doesn't wait." Later is a thief, and I refuse to let it steal from me ever again.